All right, good evening, guys. Thanks for joining us in the second episode of The Price of Everything, talking to our leaders. So for tonight, we've got a very special lady, one that I have a lot of time for, honest to God. I've known her since I've been a teenager. She might not have remembered me then, but we've had the chance to work together in her other capacity as the chairperson, as I've been correctly told by Crystal to announce, chairperson of the Barbados Film and Video Association some time back. We did seminars together and whatnot, and I had a lot of respect for her because she's a person that gives the youth a chance. So if I had to have anybody in this studio so early within this series, it had to be Lynette Eastmond, chairperson of the UPP. Lynette, thanks for joining us tonight, man.
Thank you very much, Jeremy, and this is a great thing that you're doing, and Crystal and Richie. It's excellent because, you know, you're giving other people a voice, and I think that's great.
And everybody has a great voice. The great thing about social media is that everybody has a great voice. So I just want to shout out again my co-host Crystal. Thanks for joining us again, particularly on short notice as well. And you really brought the flames last night, and I'm quite sure you and Lynette will have a very interesting discourse as the night goes on. Another shout out to the producer, Reza Milan Richie, for allowing us to use his fine very nice facilities, studio. I should say. Yeah, one of the best podcast studios we have on island. So definitely, if you guys want to do the business, shout Reza Milan on realityweekends.com. And this episode is brought to you, of course, by Reality Weekends and others. Alright, so if we could start, I just want to thank the viewers for coming in again. You guys have been amazing. I just got to do some housekeeping. First and foremost, this is not about personalities. This isn't about us getting personal with, well, we're getting personal, but not being personal with the politician. It's about issues and seeing how they want to treat the issues going forward. Each has a side. We have to be respectful. So anybody calling in on WhatsApp, using WhatsApp calls on +1 246 825 6536. Be sure when you call in that Lynette will answer your questions, and we're taking calls from 6:30 straight through to 7:30. And I just hope you guys continue to bring the flames. But again, we want to be respectful. We want to keep it down to at least one question or at least one interaction so that everybody has a fair chance to interact with Lynette, chairperson of the UPP. So my first question, because the first half hour is about us in here getting the chance to interact with you. Who is Lynette Eastmond? I know two aspects of her.
Yeah.
But I'm sure Crystal knows two aspects of her at the very least. But for Barbados, how do we, as a millennial group, that is the under 35 group, relate to you as a person first and foremost? How do we like you? How do we convince other people to like you the way I do?
That's really a hard question, and you didn't tell me you were going to ask me that question.
Sorry.
But, and I mean, because an individual knowing who he or she is really one of the great challenges of life, to actually understand who you are. And when you understand that, I think you can do almost anything. So I mean, I have done a lot of introspection for myself, and I think that who I am, I think that I am someone who, for some reason, genuinely wants the best for other people. For some reason, it doesn't bother me when other people might appear to be doing well and I'm not in the same field. I actually do feel good for them. And I can't tell you that I'm a special person in that regard. I think that's just how I was born. I've never had a difficulty with that. So I like to see people doing well, and I like to see them trying. And when someone is trying, I would love to be there to help. I always want to help someone who is progressing, who wants to do well, who wants to do better. I must say that sometimes if a person isn't willing to help themselves, I sometimes, well, some people might think I'm being too hard on them. Let me put it that way. If I think that you could really, do better, and I'm trying to let you see how you can, sometimes I can be a bit hard on people where that's concerned.
And that's not a bad summary, because at the very least it means that you're people-centric. And most, I guess, younger voters would like to know that a leader cares
But it's not a pushover.
Yeah, but it's not a pushover, because the irony is that lots of us believe that the current leader of the country is not a pushover, but it doesn't seem like he cares. So that's not a question for you to answer, but I'm just saying that's the impression. That's not. That's the impression that kept.
Perception.
That's the perception that kept coming through last night from us. The questions that people were asking, like they wanted to know how our last guest felt about the PM. It was very direct. They had to actually fashion it in a particular way and not to draw any issues. But the whole point is, I think there's a market, if I can use that phrase, for a person who cares firstly about people.
Correct.
Yeah,
and I mean, you see it globally as well. The love that Obama and even Trudeau in Canada now, they're receiving this love because they have shown that they care about the people and the problems that people are facing.
The difficulty always is the perception, because I've interacted with the current Prime Minister, and he was a very positive person to interact with.
To me too.
But it doesn't come across that way to the public.
Exactly, but therein lays the issue.
That is the problem, though.
So
we can't all have personal one-on-ones with the Prime Minister to be able to see he's a...
Well, there you go. But
yeah.
I can't say that he's not a decent human being. My interactions with him have
Everyone
been,
I know that has met him one-on-one says the same thing. They met him in person. He's such a nice person, but it does not translate to the public.
But again, remember, the whole theme is not about personalities and whatnot. And one of the questions I really wanted to get out of the way before we start getting into the 6:30, I guess, rapid fire hot seat session, because it's really going to come hot and heavy, is why now? Because I actually should start off defining who or what is the UPP. I think that. Yeah.
Okay, so I know that one of the things that you really want to get to is why now and why the UPP. So seeing that I have some time, I think I can talk about the whole process.
Please.
Because for a very long time, probably about 10 years, I started this discussion, debate, dialogue with practically every person that I met, including people in the supermarket. Sometimes I would see people that I went to school with, and I would say, how are you doing? You know, they would say they're busy, they're doing this and that. And I would say, but, you know, what are you doing in terms of our democracy in Barbados or the society, and, you know, how you're contributing? And from a lot of people, I would get the response that essentially they felt that their role was to vote every 5 years, and that the politicians have a job to do and they should do it. And I would just check and see close to the end of the 5 years whether you did a good job or not, then we decide to vote. And that wasn't my view, because obviously I can see how other countries operate, and I recognize that there are a number of interest groups, a number of individuals who actually do play a role in the whole democratic process. So I was concerned about that people would say no, because some of the people that I was talking to would be considered some of the brightest people in Barbados, and that was their view. And that kind of shocked me a bit. And, you know, I spent a lot of time wondering what to do about it. So one of the mediums we have, of course, is Facebook. So I started posting these things on Facebook, started getting into discussions with people about participating in the Barbados democracy more. And then I decided to go out, and there were 2 public presentations that I did, you know, inviting people that I know, and a few people helped me with those, to have the discussion really about what our democracy is like, to provide people with information. So that was one session, which was providing information. And then the second one that I did had to do with what can people do to actually participate? Because I recognize that in the discussions on Facebook, that people then said, well, yeah, okay, so you're saying that we should participate, but how do you actually do it? What can you do? So I did my research on that, and, you know, the usual things that you could think about that you see people doing abroad. They write letters, they demonstrate, they come together in organizations in order to lobby government, etc. We don't have a lot of that. There are few interest groups which do that, But you would see in certain countries, if there's an issue that arises, a group will come together for that particular issue, around that issue, and see it right through. And, you know, we're beginning to see some of that in Barbados. You saw that with the Cahill movement. You saw people coming together with respect to the water in St. Joseph, the water warriors.
Shout out to David Davis.
Right, David Davis. And then there are people who have come together in their groups where, I mean, Crystal has posted a lot of information, even what y'all are doing here right now. I think this is about Barbadians beginning to recognize that there are different ways that you can participate, and that they should pursue it, and that they should be free to do so. So in the same way that I was thinking about it, it seems as though other people were thinking about it as well. And I think that they have reached the point where they recognize that they need to do more. You really, because being involved in what happens in your country politically is just about the most important thing you can do, because it's the politicians who set the policy with respect to education, health, agriculture, and all of these things affect us personally. I think one of the issues, though, is that, you know, there are a number of people who believe that what they do will not make a difference. And I think that, and I do try to give examples of where a difference might have been made. I think a difference was made with the Cahill issue. You know, we have, for example, Douglas Trotman, who has been pushing access to medical marijuana for quite a while, and he set up his own Facebook page and his group and etc. And he's doing that. So I think that this is an important time that we've reached. So there are many ways in which you can participate, and one of the other ways that you can do it is by forming a political party. And some of us believe that, well, one of the ways that you can really make effective changes is to be actually there in government, or to be a voice which can recommend changes within the parliament. And my own experience is that if you are in a ministry and there are certain issues that need to be addressed, that's the easiest place to do it. I mean, it really is. And so this is why some of us have got together to form another party. I think that this whole process is part of the maturing of the Barbados democracy. This has happened in other countries. There are many other countries that have several political parties. For example, even though the UK still has the first past the post system, they do have more than 2 political parties, even though we probably hear about Labour and the Tories more than the others. But there are actually other parties which have seats in the House. So there's nothing unusual about it. There are a number of European countries which have done the same, a number of Commonwealth countries which have done the same. So the way that I see it is that it is part of the process. I think we're becoming more mature as a country, and that our democracy is becoming more mature.
Okay. One of the points that the minister would have made last night was that a lot of the pushback comes from the permanent secretaries and the mindset of the public servants towards change. Now, as a new party, we've seen the difficulties that both the LP and BLP would have experienced in overcoming these challenges. As a new party, do you think you can garner enough respect to change the situation, and how do you think you'd be able to handle something like that?
Well, my experience with permanent secretaries and civil servants apparently is different from that of the minister. As far as I'm concerned, ministers and politicians, they're politicians, and they're meant to be leaders. And well-trained civil servants understand that. My experience was that I had an excellent permanent secretary. I will even mention his name, Cephas Gooding. When I was in the Ministry of Commerce, you could not find a more hardworking person, a person who, because he knew the civil service much better than I had, because he was in there for several years, he was able to guide me. But there was never an issue with him about not pursuing the policies which the government had at the time, which came from cabinet. So for me, I never found that pushback. I know that there's some areas though that that civil servants will be concerned about. One of those areas is technology, because I think that we do have to leverage the use of technology to make their work that painstaking, mundane, everyday work that they have to do, like filing documents, reviewing them, that type of thing. I think that we have to leverage technology to make that easier. Now, some people believe that when you use technology that there are actually fewer jobs available. Now, I did this when I was in international business as well. When I took up that position as director of international business, the technology that we had access to was very poor, and we made sure that we upgraded the international business department with the computers and the internet and databases, etc. We did not have less work to do. We actually had more work to do, because instead of just focusing on like doing renewals every year, which was just typing up a renewal and sending out a certificate, we were able to do things like review all of the international business companies that we had, look to see if they were actually paying their taxes, putting them in a database, looking to see the origin, looking to see what they were actually doing in Barbados. All of that, the Inland Revenue Department, which is now BRA, the Inland Revenue Department was actually able to benefit from that whole process, because there were some companies that were not paying taxes, not because they didn't want to pay taxes, but it just was not at the top of their radar. So when we sent them the notice and said, look, you haven't paid taxes for like 5 years, they would just do the tax return and, you know, write the check and send it in. So I know that that's one of the areas that civil servants would be concerned about, but I really do not think that technology would impact them negatively. It will actually give them time to do work that they would actually find more interesting.
Considering the constrained resources, because unfortunately Barbados is in a time where we are struggling.
Yeah.
How would you propose, outside of printing more money, that we would raise the finances to be able to improve technology? Because improving technology is not going to happen just because we snap our fingers and wish for it. We need to have a plan as to how we're going to finance this, as well as all the other issues that Barbados has to deal with our debt and restoring the confidence of investors.
Well, for me, everything doesn't have to be as expensive as we think it should be. Sometimes there are simple solutions that actually don't cost a lot of money, because people actually do now have access to the internet. Most of the government agencies have websites. Let me give you an example. You would go to a government agency, and there's a real example. You go on a website, they say, okay, you have to file a particular document. The document is 3 pages. You, because you're environmentally concerned citizen, etc., you print the document and you print it back and front. You go to the government department and they say, oh no, we did not want it back and front. You need to submit single sheets. So if you think about the amount of time that is wasted by the officer, by the person who took it in, by the person who is going to redo it, and you multiply that time by people's charge out rate, that's 4 human beings by their charge out rate, you would see that we've just wasted a lot of money. Now, what's the solution to that? Do what other countries do. Do a frequently asked questions. Put in detail. You're doing this particular return. It must be 8.5 by 11. You must submit single sheets. You must do it in duplicate. And as you go along, as issues arise, like for example, they might want you to sign in black ink. It must have your middle initial. All of those things you can, and that doesn't cost you anything. The website is there already. You just put it up there now. so that people would know. That saves a lot of time.
You could then also start looking at using open source technologies or some form of open source technologies for less sensitive material. But I just saw some questions that some people are asking on the website that I found very interested in. Everybody wants to get to the meat of the matter.
We would pose the question at 6:30 because that's when we were taking questions from the audience.
Yeah, but definitely, no, one of them actually coincides with a question I have to ask, which is to do with the policies of the UPP and also experience of the candidates. Right? There's one person in there that is, you need to, Mr. John, call John. Yeah. He had an interesting question that I definitely think we should pose later on. But for me, I think one of the questions would be, given that you are, or perceivably, not just the chair or maybe political leader, but you're also the more experienced person politically and having practical government experience for at least 2 terms thereabouts. So the question then is, if it were that you got in, that the UPP is the party that leads us, then how can you assure the public of Barbados that experience should not be an issue? I have my ideas of it, but still, how could it be some assurity?
The reason that I know that it shouldn't be an issue for Barbados is that I know that before we became independent, we had no experience at being independent, and we made a success of it. I know that before Errol Barrow became the Prime Minister of Barbados, he'd never been the Prime Minister of Barbados before,
he was the
and
premier.
he made a success of it. Before Owen Arthur became the Prime Minister of Barbados, he was not Prime Minister of Barbados before, and he made a success of it. Before I was Director of International Business, I had never been Director of International Business before, and I think I made a success of it. Before I was Minister of Commerce, I had never been Minister of Commerce before, and I think I made a success of it. So what I'm saying to you is that as long as individuals have a level of expertise in a particular area and they're willing to learn, I believe that they can make a success of it. And I don't, unlike some other politicians, I do not believe that civil servants are useless. There are many of them who have developed a great level of expertise in their own areas over the years, and I would advise anybody who goes in to a ministry for the first time, the first thing that they should sit down and do is have a meeting with their heads of department. Let the heads of department know what your intentions are as a leader, and once you show them that respect, they will guide you as to the best way to do it. You may disagree, but that happens with human beings all the time. But I know that one of the great advantages that Barbados has is that for many years it has had a sound civil service. What has not happened is that we have not reformed the legislation in order to ensure that they can act more efficiently. I mean, I'm amazed that sometimes I would call a government department, I've submitted something, and I'm speaking to a particular civil servant, and I say, can you tell me where my matter is? And they would be able to say, oh yes, that has gone to the ministry, but it hasn't come back as yet. This is on the phone. And this is without having the technology that really they should be able to just go on the computer and say exactly. So I don't think, there may be some of them that do a bad job, but there's some people doing a bad job in every area in Barbados, and then there are some who are doing an excellent job. I know it's easy to paint people with a broad brush, but I don't like to do that because that is not my experience.
The difficulty with that is there's no performance appraisal in place to be able to assess who in the public service is performing well and who is not. And even if there is, many times some of these supervisors just give persons a passing grade.
No, I won't even jump in there. There's no standard performance appraisal, because I remember when I was at Central Bank, they used to appraise me, but that's pseudo government. I'm quite sure that within other ministries there may be some form of appraisal.
No, there is an appraisal system, and a great effort was made to put an appraisal system in place, and there is an appraisal system. But then a lot has to do with how you apply the appraisal system to people. Now, it's going to be very difficult, and this is one of the issues that I have not only with government but in the private sector as well. There's a habit that people in management positions tend to develop these handbooks and performance targets for individuals. They don't go through the handbook nor the performance targets. They don't train them on a regular basis, and for me, training is not sending somebody off once a year to a seminar where they can have lunch and come back and feel. I'm talking about real training on a regular basis. That if somebody has a deficiency and it's a member of staff that you want to maintain, that you send them off to be trained to improve that deficiency. So you don't do any of those things, and then there's an appraisal system, and then you give the person a bad grade because you say, oh, you should know X, but they've not they've not been trained. You haven't taken the time to do that, and you somehow think that they should just know it, and that's not right. And my view is that in Barbados, one of the things that managers need to learn is that they do have to train their staff. There are lots of people who seem to feel that when students leave the university or they leave secondary school, that they're supposed to come out fit for purpose for their particular job. And there's
it doesn't happen that way.
Businesses in the rest of the world that are really serious, they never do that. In fact, they would prefer if you don't try to train them at all, because they want to train them
the way they want them,
that they want them.
One of my students, one of the relatives to one of my students said that something here coming off of one of your statements just now, that Sinclair never led a finance ministry before, but he made a success of it. Yes.
I was assuming that was sarcasm.
It was no, that's what I mean. It was interesting. No, I had to point that one out. That was interesting.
because the thing has to do with what your background is as well.
But there you go. But then how? Okay, so the whole issue then that Sinclair, as a Minister of Finance, now let me be respectful, of him having a background up to a particular point. That was never really communicated to most of the people of Barbados, and then a lot of people felt blindsided, or let's say fooled into accepting willingly a Minister of Finance who was not trained. I mean, the reason they might not have done anything to prove that, but when they walk the streets, the amount of people that have talked about his background now versus the time when Thompson had appointed him as Minister of Finance is a bit alarming to see that people actually have an issue now, and I get the impression that they did not know then. So I think probably one of the more important things to any party is to ensure that not only when their candidates are fielded that you hear about their policies, but rather what their capabilities are, so you may be willing to give a chance. So the case in point, your deputy, I know he's very good at finance, for instance. Yes. So I can actually see him, or I'm willing to give him the chance to even run the Ministry of Finance per se, you see. But let's say, for instance, and this is where other parties have fallen down, I have no idea right now who has certain capabilities, and that's me as a person.
No, you see, where I might have to disagree with you a little bit
Go ahead.
is that I do believe that when candidates are chosen, they say what their background is. The question is, do the people listen?
All right. Fair point.
Enough.
Fair point.
Yeah, do you listen? Because and some of the listeners calling in and sending in WhatsApp messages, it would be interesting for me to find out exactly what it is you're looking for, because quite often I get the impression that people really don't want to hear what your background is, what your experience is, what you've done in the past. Basically, you go on a political platform, and the person who is the most entertaining is the one that gets the most votes.
That's going to change this next election.
So people can tell me if I'm right or if I'm wrong.
Well, before getting to the question segment, I'd like to quickly get this one in, because it was of concern to me, the stance taken by the DLP with regards to integrity legislation, and even at the spirit of it, what you're trying to achieve. You are trying to get about a situation where if you see something happen that is not right, there's a mechanism in place to make sure that this person is held accountable. And the efforts to have that happen seem not to have materialized. What is your stance on integrity legislation, and what is it that you would like to bring forward with respect to that area?
Well, I believe that people should be accountable, and that there should certainly be more transparency, and that everybody should be accountable for their actions. You see, I work in the magistrate's court sometimes, and I see young men come into the court. They're shackled by their ankles, shackled by their wrists, And then when you hear the charge,
It's not that serious.
they've stolen a bottle of cologne.
Yeah.
Right?
But in Barbados, you have individuals who break the law, and the law is broken from the time the writ is issued for the election to be called, because it is against the law to bribe electors. But that is done. It is done open. It is done openly.
It is.
Everybody sees it.
Everybody talks about it.
Nobody is arrested. Nobody is charged. And you're talking about millions of dollars. You're also talking about a situation where in government, and I must say I'm entirely embarrassed by the fact that you can have political operatives who, by their actions and the costs incurred by the investor, causes Barbadians to have to pay more money for a project. And I don't know if it is quite clear to Barbadians that they pay. I see people being very cavalier about that. But we pay for it. The investors aren't going to pay. It goes into the cost of the project.
Yep.
So we pay for it. And people really don't seem to be concerned at all.
Do you think the Barbadian public is ready to vote for a candidate who does not try to bribe them and recognizes that the funding behind these bribes comes from private institutions who then hold the same politicians to ransom later? Do you think they just are ready?
I don't know. Many, in terms of the feedback that I am getting, people are saying to me, well, we know that $200 can't last you for 5 years.
There you go.
Although somebody said to me that an iPad might be able to last for 5 years.
Okay.
All right, you see that shot?
Great for the core.
You see that? I wanna break on that shot there.
So somebody did say that to me. But I mean, I'm getting a feeling that people are starting to recognize that at the end of the day, that they don't really benefit. The other thing that is scary to me is what happens, because we had a little thing here going in Barbados where we know that business people would fund some people and that kind of thing. But what happens when you step out of Barbados and you get funding from outside?
All right, so we got to take a little break here, just a 2-minute break here before we get into the segment where you guys call in on WhatsApp. Use your WhatsApp calls as the following number to your contact list, +1 246 825 6536. And once we resume from the break, you can start to call in and you can target your questions to Lynette Eastmond, chairperson of the UPP. Just a bit of a housekeeping matter. Just be aware that there's a 14-second lag between what we are seeing here in the studio and what you're seeing out there. So I would tell you straight up, from the time you see us on the screen, start calling so we can start having this conversation with you. So take it away, Richie. See you guys soon.
YouTube partner Reality Weekends presents
What in there? We have an item in there. You tell us what you feel in there.
the all-new live Facebook game show where you can win cash and many different prizes weekly. All you gotta do is guess what's in the box.
First clue, local repairmen should have one.
Then call or text the answer to win awesome prizes.
No, it's not a charger. No.
Sorry.
The more people to play, the more fun it gets.
We got the call.
She just won herself $50 voucher.
So tell your friends to log on to
WinDidIt.com
and follow the Facebook page where we go live every week. So watch the show this week and guess
what in there? What in there?
Yep.
Good to go.
Do you need amazing aerial footage for your next video production or commercial? Do you need custom sky photos or videos for your real estate properties, music videos, events, or sporting activities? Then 246drones.com is the perfect solution for you. Buy instant downloadable, licensed aerial stock footage or book a custom aerial film package today. Visit us now at www.246drones.com. Services available in Miami and the Caribbean. Hey there! Do you have a business, product, or service that needs promoting? Well, the same way that you're seeing this commercial, thousands of others will too. This could be your business advertising right here. We can create your commercials as well as promote them heavily online. Book your commercial today by visiting www.southpointstudios.com or email us on realityweekends@gmail.com.
Welcome to the Express Bikini Store. Feel good in your swimwear from expressbikini.com. Log on to www.expressbikini.com. Follow us at facebook.com/expressbikini and on Instagram. Feel confident with expressbikini.com. Feel alive. Express Bikini. Love your body. Feel your soul.
Alright guys, welcome back, and we have our first caller on the line. He said he didn't care if our guest knew who he was, but let me just make sure this works. But nonetheless, how you doing? Can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Alright, you can hear us. Let me just raise this volume a little bit. Yes, sorry again. Dwayne, you can hear us again?
Yes, I can hear you.
Alright, great. I think everybody in the studio can hear you. You've got Crystal, you've got the chairperson of the UPP, Lynette, on the line expecting your question. Take it right away, sir.
Okay, good evening, Lynette.
Hi, good evening, Dwayne.
Good. Before my question, you said something that Lucinda had mentioned. She mentioned about things when you mentioned about the things in the last election. What I would like everyone to know is that about 6 months after Lynette had done a presentation on the citizen.
Sorry, oh, he just dropped off. Hi, Dwayne, you may want to call back again, or he's calling. Hi, Dwayne, that's you again? Hello, Dwayne, that's you again? Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, sorry, go ahead. Repeat what you were saying for Lynette.
Yeah, sorry, Lynette, I just wanted to mention, there's something that Lucinda mentioned about come out things, but I know that you had done a presentation about 6 months after the election, and it was a very non-partisan, and it talked about all the things that she talked about. I recommend that. But that forms part of my question. My question is, after the last election, with all the political coup within the opposition and the various campaigns by various parties, I was of the strong opinion that we needed a third party. However, after the 2013 elections, when I attended your session on the rights of the shareholders of this country, I became a believer that your message of an engaged and informed citizenry is the solution. Now, I changed my view that we needed a third party. And I've used your term, no one is going to save you on many occasions.
Yeah.
So what's coming to save you?
No one, she said no. And I use it all the time. So much so that I think COSCAP or someone should be sending me a bill for you. However, that, along with Crystal's Auditor General's report rendition, was the motivation behind the social accountability and education group concept.
Correct.
The message is for an engaged and informed citizenry, and we spent an entire session on governance and the importance of adherence to governance to ensure prudent governance. With that in mind, what has changed that you believe that we need an alternative party?
No, but Dwayne, you see, the thing is, nothing has changed. Absolutely nothing has changed. In terms of what I presented about participation by the people of Barbados, my view is that it should be participation in all aspects. So I believe that there's a role for every type of participant. There are some participants who might actually want to contest a seat. There are some that might want to form a pressure group. There's some that would want to form the group like what you formed. There's some who might just sit at home and write letters to their parliamentary representative. There's some who might want to do, what do you call them, petitions. So I wasn't trying to, in those sessions, I wasn't trying to guide anybody as to what form it would take. My idea was simply that you should participate more. And it is, I think, in terms of thinking about it and your thoughts evolving, because I was where you were at one point, but I also know that it's going to take a long time in Barbados before people are open, because the persons who are receiving your message, for example, your petitions or your lobby or whatever, they have to be open to that concept that you can actually make a difference and be open to hearing from you. Because there's some who are just not open to hearing from you. They will say, well, I was voted in, and therefore now the run is up to me to do whatever I feel like doing. And they would not be open to listening to you. So I know that in order for things to change significantly and to change as quickly as possible before Barbados falls behind any further, I know that you actually need to be in government in order to effect that quickly. But what I do want is for the entire landscape to evolve, for people to open up their minds to different ways of doing things, which would be different from what we've had before. Before, you just vote B, you vote D, you go to the polling station, you stay up at night, you wait for the results, and then you go on until the end of the election cycle. So that is what I wanted to see change, and I think that's changing.
And that's a very fair question, man. Gwen?
So and you don't think it's an either or? It can be both.
No,
both.
It has to be both. I think that our democracy has to be a lot more active and engaged, and people engaging in different ways. People demonstrating, people putting up their soapbox and doing a little speech in Bridgetown if they feel like. You know, people need to feel free, and if they need to feel not afraid to say what they do not like about anything at all that is happening. That is what I think democracy is about.
Thanks a lot, Dwayne, for calling, man. That's a great contribution, huh?
All right. Thank you.
That actually kind of leads into another question that I wanted to bring to the table. Some of the comments that I've consistently heard via Facebook and interactions with persons, they're very much against a third party because they believe that it would take away votes, ironically, from DLP and result in DLP getting back in again. And they seem really upset that third parties have come out and this appears to be distractions. What is your response to that? How do you get people on board with the idea that a new party is more than just a distraction but a real option?
Yeah, why should we have alternative parties at this time, legitimately so, yeah?
Well, I would hope that we have them at this time and that we have them at other times in the future. I want it to continue. I personally was always quite disappointed that after the NDP had done so well, that they had not continued in that vein. But that is behind us. My view is that when elections are called, each Barbadian has a vote, and the votes belong to the people of Barbados. They do not belong to the Barbados Labour Party, neither do they belong to the Democratic Labour Party. I don't know why people are doing an analysis that would suggest to me that the Barbados Labour Party is actually the weaker party in the field, and that votes would be taken from them as opposed to votes being taken by the DLP. Yeah. I don't know why they're doing that analysis and thinking that the Barbados Labour Party is so weak.
I think it's more a case of who's leading the UPP right now, as opposed to the other side, you know.
Oh, so they think that there is a possibility that I may take away some Barbados Labour Party votes.
Yeah. That is
okay.
I think that's what's been said to me before. Yeah.
Well, I would like to thank them for that vote of confidence. It would mean that I am not as uncharismatic as they say, if that's a word. It would mean that I have the possibility to sway people over to the UPP side. So I thank you for that. But I wouldn't worry about that too much. If we have seats in the parliament, you can be sure that we would represent the interests of Barbadians to the fullest extent possible. So I don't think there's any need to worry about that.
All right. Well, I mean, that's actually a very good question there to move into. Well, I guess some more calls. Nonetheless, let me just remind people, just in case they missed it, and thank you, Dwayne, for calling earlier. You can call, and it's totally anonymous. The number again is +1-246-825-6536. Once more, +1-246-825-6536. Add that number to WhatsApp, and WhatsApp call us and have a chat with Lynette. I mean, insofar the questions have been great. Now, I think we've gotten away somewhat from part of what I wanted to talk about, which is more so the party as opposed to a vision or an ideology of its leader. And let's start to explore, at least before we get another call, why UPP is pushing participating democracy as a strategy. Who is the UPP looking at as a candidate, I should say, because you may not want to reveal whom just yet, but what's the prototypical candidate that this party will be branded by going forward? Those questions.
The truth is that we're not pushing participatory democracy as a strategy. It is something that we actually believe.
Okay, so it's an ideology then.
Yeah.
All right, perfect.
So that's just how we feel one way or the other. I actually, when I was the Minister of Commerce, I used to engage with stakeholders very often. And one of my greatest experiences, I always say to people, is when we had the cooperative legislation to review, which had been languishing for some time, and it had not been amended. It was done as a part of a study with all of the financial institutions, and the legislation had been amended for all of them except for the credit unions.
Mm-hmm.
I think because there was some concern about the credit unions being unhappy, and as you know, the credit unions, I don't remember the number, but it's over, like, I think it's like over 120,000 people in the credit union movement, if not more.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess there was a concern about upsetting the credit union movement. But what I did was we made the amendments, and we presented the draft to the credit union movement, and the credit union movement engaged someone to review the draft, and they put together a response which they sent to the ministry, a comprehensive response, bound, and sent a copy to us for us to review. And then what we did is that we met with them, and we went through line by line every single amendment. We heard what they had to say, and they heard what we had to say. They heard what our concerns were. Now, in my view, that's the best way to work. And I always tell that story because I was so impressed with the credit union movement. We didn't put the legislation out there and, have them just grumble about it. They actually took it, got together the umbrella organization with representatives from all the credit unions, and they actually came up with a document in response to us. In addition to that, we also facilitated meetings. Well, obviously it couldn't be with all of the members, but each credit union was allowed to send, for example, 2 or 3 members, and we had those open sessions with the credit union movement, and that worked so exceptionally well that I do not know why any minister would not want to have that kind of relationship with stakeholders when they're passing new legislation. I mean, that means that you actually have them on board already, and when you're explaining to them why you think you cannot do a particular thing, I mean, obviously you have to reason. So even if they don't agree with you 100%, they might agree with you 90%, and you can resolve the issues there. And so I think that with that kind of experience, how could I not want people to participate more?
I'm glad you brought up that point, because I would have attended an ICAF, Institute of Chartered Accountants of Barbados seminar some months ago, and they brought up some statistics related to the ease of doing business, and one of the statistics that stuck with several persons was that it takes approximately 3 years for court proceedings to be finalized from beginning to end. And it is a significant contributing factor. Now, there has been some statements from both parties that the statistics in the ease of doing business annals, they are not necessarily accurate. There's sometimes not even talk to key stakeholders, and that is the general sentiment that they're not necessarily accurate and should not be relied on should not be relied on totally to be able to say whether Barbados is doing well with regards to that area. I would like to get your stance on what you think about that statement first off, and regardless of that, we do recognize that there is some improvement that is required where that is concerned, and most people may not know you have a legal background, but how you think the legal fraternity can contribute to improving that statistic.
Well, in terms of the statistic, I haven't seen the report, but what I can say is that there are some matters that are done much faster than 3 years.
Well, yes, it's an average.
Right, so it's an average. And there are some that take much longer than 3 years. So if it's a proper study and they came up with an average of 3 years, I would not discount that. To me, I don't think it is an unreasonable time frame that they're talking about. Within the legal system, and it's not just the legal system, it's Barbados. It's a Barbados thing. And I was out of practice for a while, and when I came back in, it was shocking to me that certain things would take so long. Now, what people then seek to do is to blame certain parties. Now, because I was coming back in, I could see very clearly that all parties can take some blame. There's enough blame to go around.
Yeah, but we need to move past the blame and start looking at solutions.
Just as there is a lot of blame to go around in almost every single area. Now, if we look at how we're going to go forward, this is going to be very complex if people are serious. And sometimes they don't know how serious people are. You can leverage technology. There's technology embedded in the court in Barbados that is still not being used. So that's a problem. What I would say though is that I have noticed that an effort is being made within the courts to do certain things to ensure that the period of time is not as lengthy as it has been in the past. So I have seen efforts. So I think yet again we can leverage technology. I think what you probably have to do is to do some kind of study to see what steps can be taken out, because sometimes there are steps that that you think, well, really should we have to do this? Like, for example, in terms of getting an order, then drafting it, then sending it back, getting it approved, redrafting it, sending back, until that's finalized. So there are steps in some of the areas that I think you could probably cut out. Now, what are the solutions? I'm a great fan of Michael Porter.
Yeah.
There's a quote that I quote from him almost in every article I write, where Michael Porter says that basically countries determine if they're going to be poor or if they're going to be wealthy. And he says that countries choose poverty when they do not allow all of their citizens access to their resources, whether it is education, whether it is to certain positions that they should be in, whether it is incentives or whatever. He says that they choose poverty when decisions are made based on family connections. I don't think he says political connections, but you know what he's talking about. Where people are in positions that they are not competent to fill, but they are in them because of either political connections or family connections, nepotism. Now, this is why I ask if people are serious, because quite frankly, sometimes I don't think people are. Because from my own experience, I have seen projects completely destroyed because you have a key person who really does not know what they're doing in terms of the project. So while it is, you find you have an IDB funded project and you're going to have a European Union project, and we've been having these projects for years. And then you ask yourself, have they made a difference? And why they haven't made a difference? Because when it comes to implementation, the people who are supposed to implement them are not competent to implement them. Now, what are we going to do about that?
Yeah, that's a major question. Sorry.
Because this comes back to one of the earlier questions with performance appraisals, they're not being used effectively. Because if you have persons in positions who are not
Can't back up my worker, man. That permanent.
That's another problem as well too.
And pay for performance and all that stuff, yeah.
If the company I work for had to tell me that they can't fire me regardless of what I do, how many persons would actually still come to work and give 110% every day?
Transfer them to the doldrums. This should be a graveyard ministry.
Where you're just paying persons who are sitting down, not being afraid of being fired.
And it hurts the taxpayers as well when you do that, right?
These are some of the things I don't understand. I'm not advocating for persons to be fired, but if persons are grossly incompetent, we should be able to do something about that.
We should be, but who's going to do something about it? Because
always the question, why is it that we never know who can do something about a lot of these things? We don't know who can do something.
No, you see, the thing about it is, what has happened in the past is that we view every problem as being the problem of those in the political class. But there are problems stretching across Barbados and deep within the Barbadian society that if we don't change them, all of what we're doing is not going to make any difference to anything. The incompetence is in the private sector as well.
Yeah, but
because many of us seem to think it is only within government.
No, you go to businesses all over Barbados and you can see it is a little bit different because there is more competition. So if I don't like what I see at Rubis, I can go to Sol. If I don't like Sol, I can go to another gas station. If I don't like this supermarket, I can go. There are fewer options when you're in government. If I want a driver's license and I don't like how they treat me,
no, but I agree.
I have to take it.
I agree with you that there's a little more competition, but we're not talking about continuing to struggle along as a third world country. We're talking about being first world. So if we're talking about being first world, it is not good enough that it is a little bit better in the private sector.
Agreed.
Because the private sector is meant to be the driver in terms of
growth.
In terms of growth.
Yeah, in growth. But that's one of my policies there as well too. I just want to take some time out to remind callers, if nonetheless, because the conversation is going well and I see you guys chatting. Yeah. Again, it's anonymous. +1 246 825 6536. Add that number to your WhatsApp and WhatsApp call us again at +1 246 825 6536. But nonetheless, I'm loving where this discussion is going. I had one thing. I wanted to get to the crux of a matter. One that I'm quite sure I'm going to touch on tomorrow on a personal post. I'm quite sure the Social Accountability Group and Education in Barbados Group, both of them being the same thing really, is going to touch on it on Thursday. And it's the whole issue of BNTCL. Now, one party, one alternative party, if I can use that term, has made that a major driving force, either towards publicity, and I am speaking out on a limb here now, or maybe it's something that they've always wanted to do. But nonetheless, it seems like an energizer or something to motivate or to build momentum around the party. Now, it's still an important perspective that we want to get, but we have an overseas call coming in, so let's take that. Hi, good night. You are on The Price of Everything. Here with Lynette Eastmond, chairperson of the UPP. Do you have a question for her?
Yes, Jeremy. Good evening to you, Crystal and Lynette.
Hey, good evening.
My first question to Lynette, I am calling outside of Barbados, so I am not on the feed to basically see what is being discussed. Nonetheless, I would ask Lynette a question that, since I'm a regular poster on Facebook of things that are happening in Barbados, as chairman of the new UPP party, what do you find to be the greatest challenge in having to face as a new political party?
what's the greatest challenge?
Yes.
The greatest challenge is going to be actually getting your voice heard. And I say that within the context of opportunities that you will be given. For example, we have been given an opportunity here, and this happens with many of the alternative parties around the world. They're just not given as much space as other parties. So in the media. So that will be a challenge, but the great advantage that we have these days is that we do have social media, and we do have organizations or entities springing up like this one that has given me the opportunity to speak here.
Yes, of course.
And of course, we have to do what everybody else does, which is actually go out and meet people. But it is still within the psyche of Barbadians that there are two political parties which they've been voting for the longest time now. So we would have to be able to even to switch them into opening up their mind to another option. But I should also say that one of the reasons that I think that these parties exist is because Barbadians have already opened up their mind a bit, because we're Barbadians too, and we wouldn't be thinking of doing this unless there was some kind of groundswell amongst the population saying that, oh, I think that this should happen.
Okay, I have. Jeremy, am I allowed to follow up?
Yeah, please don't follow up. I can hear a good follow up coming.
Okay.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, perfect. So I realize that since the announcement of the UPP party, there has been endless oppositions from persons on both political spectrum, both the B and the DLP. Persons such as Donville Innes and Liz Thompson have been vocal within the media as it relates to this new UPP party. In comparison to other political parties such as Solutions Barbados and Barbados Integrity Movement, it seems that the UPP is getting the attention of the two major political parties. What do you think is the reason for this? And does the UPP have a secret weapon that they have not revealed to Barbados yet?
Very good questions. Very good questions.
Well, it is a secret weapon, but I won't be able to reveal it. But I will tell you, my father always used to tell me that you don't see little boys throwing rocks up in a mango tree that doesn't have mangoes in it.
Yeah. That's actually very...
That's what he always used to say to me. So it means that the UPP has something in it that they feel that they have to destroy. And, this is always the difficulty with alternatives and with new things. You can be sure that there are individuals out there who will try to crush you before you even start. But it would suggest to me that they do believe that we have something, we can bring something to the people that they will listen to. And that has been our response, quite frankly. We were out in the field today, and people do feel that, they're starting to say that they know that there's only, that the other two political parties are really just one party. That's what people are saying.
So, but thank you. So, Colin, so go ahead with this last one. There we go. Yeah.
Sorry, this is my last question. Sorry, Lynette. I'm a political science student, so it just tends to be coming up with so many questions. You said just now we were out in the field. Today, to my record, the UPP has only been acknowledged with one face, which is the chairman, Lynette Eastmond.
Not really.
What? Where?
There are three.
Publicly, let me state.
Three have been publicly named.
Okay. Why is it that the UPP tends to be operating under the premise of such secrecy as it relates to releasing the names of its other members? I watched your press conference when you first announced that there are opposition, and you sounded like you were referring to not only to the DLP but also to the BLP. But my major thing is this secrecy going to continue if the UPP should take government? And what measures of integrity and transparency does the UPP plan to bring to Barbados, especially in a time where our economy is failing and we as young people need answers not long talk.
He really went from 0 to 100 there, but passion is they set it up, man. Go ahead,
Go ahead,
Lynette.
Okay, I will say to you that definitely before the elections, all of the candidates will be revealed. But what I would say to you is that our plan is to reveal the candidates and give each candidate his or her own space to present himself or herself. I think that is fair to the candidate, and I think it is also, I could tell you this one little strategic plan that we have. We think that it gives us more space if we reveal the candidates gradually, as opposed to having a meeting and revealing all of them, because then that would just be one meeting we have. So next week we should be revealing one candidate and giving that candidate an opportunity, a platform to present himself by himself, not in a room with me, sitting there speaking and the candidate next to me. This will be the candidate's own show, and I am 100% with you where transparency is concerned. I think that transparency really, I was going to say a good dose of salt, but I think transparency would be great for Barbados. We definitely need more of it. I don't think that we're too small for it. There are some sensitive issues that obviously you cannot reveal about people's personal business, but apart from that, transparency is necessary.
Well, and thank you so much, Carla, for your interventions. You really made it very lively there for us just now, and I love the intervention. Thank you so much.
One of the comments coming in on Facebook leading off from that is that we've seen this before. In all seriousness, how can anyone be expected to take it seriously if no leader is known?
Who you mean the leader of the UPP?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm the leader of the UPP.
Or the political, well, in terms of the executive, it's said that you're a chair.
As opposed
Are
to
you also the political leader, given the classical structure of political parties?
Well, given the classical structure of political parties, who would be the political leader? Now, within the, if I use an example, if you see the Barbados Labour Party, George Payne is the chairman. Mayor Motley is the political leader.
Right.
Yes.
Why is Mayor Motley the political leader?
I have no idea how this structure works.
She's the political leader because she leads the politicians sitting in Parliament.
Right. Right.
Who are the politicians sitting in Parliament for the UPP?
None. Right. So you mean it's no difference right now then? That's what you're saying? But so therefore you can say then that the chairperson can take the party into elections.
The chairperson has to.
In this case. All right, good. So it's a foregone conclusion then, in other words.
At any point in time, the candidates can change their political leader.
We got another call coming in. Good night. Thank you for calling into the Price of Everything, talking to our leaders. You're on the line with Lynette Eastmond. Go and ask your question.
Good night, everybody. Good night to Miss Eastmond as well, too. I'm a young person as well, and as someone who have observed politics and action in this country for the last few years or so, my question to you here is, in as short as possible, or extensive, however you choose to answer, what are the UPP's ideals, and why should we give you a second look as opposed to the more established political parties?
If you want to repeat that, for the people, because we opened up the conversation with that earlier, but no matter, there are more people on right now.
But well, I should tell you that we do have a website. It's uppbarbados.org, uppbarbados.org, and we have our core values set out there, and we do have some of our policies, not all of them. We will be working on developing those, and we will post them. We're not going to wait until elections to hand out a manifesto, which then most people don't read. We're going to develop our policies as we go along. We'll get feedback from you, and we will enhance them. But in terms of why you should give the UPP a second look, is we are looking at Barbados with fresh eyes. We believe that Barbados can be a first world country. We believe that there can be a minimum high standard of living for every Barbadian.
That's universal basic income you're pushing?
And
no, go ahead.
And we're looking at Barbados as a country with 285,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that important? Because many of us look at Barbados as though it has 300 million people. It actually has only 285,000 people. So when you look at some things, let us take randomly something, for example, let us look at what we can do for blind people in Barbados. How many babies do you think are born every year that are blind? I don't know, but it can be many.
Well, but before I get to that,
wait. So I can let you make your point, but I'm making that point to say that there are manageable things that we can do, which we don't do because we, in our mind, it's in our head. In our head, we think that they're too big. But I think one of the most important things that we can do for people in Barbados starts with children. And children, babies, there are not that many babies born every day in Barbados. I don't know if there are more than 10. But I think that we can identify very early, and this is why in the UK they talk about something called joined up government. Everything is connected, and you have to start with the children. So you can start with a child that is born tonight, who anybody at a single glance can see that child is at risk. But we do nothing when there are interventions that you can make early. We try to make the intervention then when the child becomes an adult and is 21, and then there are a problem, and then we say, oh, they're not good. Where we could have made the intervention early, it would not have been as expensive. So this is how we are looking at things. That's our vision. Go ahead.
But in all fairness, right? I understand you're trying to, I don't know if it's to soften a little bit, but in all fairness and with all due respect, I do not think you've answered the question. Honestly,
repeat the question for me, because I might not have answered it. Repeat the question.
Okay, let me structure it a different way.
Don't structure it a different way. Give me the same question.
Okay,
let me make sure that I answer it.
Because why should we as young people, because I would have voted the last election, right? Why should we give the UPP a chance, considering the talk out there that's circulating around the timing of the proposition of this party?
The what? Missed that.
The timing.
Okay,
the timing of the party.
In terms of it coming out just a year before.
And in addition, the current makeup or lack thereof of the party. These are all valid concerns which I would want as well have, and as well as the rest of Barbados currently. So I'm asking you, now that you have a platform to portray this point, why should we as the young people of Barbados give you a chance to...
Well, you know, I have spoken to other young people, and some of them are within the UPP, and they're willing to give the UPP a chance. I am saying to you, you know, you can talk about the timing. You might say it's too late. In terms of the people who make up the UPP, I said before at great length that we want to bring our candidates out in a way that gives them a platform. I said that before. I don't know if you weren't listening.
Yes, I was listening.
Right. So as time goes on, you will see each candidate being presented. Now, then I went on, and so I'm trying to address the timing. The timing it gives you about a year, for example. I have seen people come on to the political scene in a shorter period of time than that. I've seen people come on in a matter of weeks.
And they have alternate third-party makeup or within an established party?
Within an established party. They've come, so we have a year as a non-established party, and this is a person who would go into a general election 4 weeks, that their candidacy is announced 4 weeks before the election, and they actually do well. So a lot has to do with whether or not people are willing to listen to you. So you're asking me why should they listen to us and give us any kind of opportunity at all? And I'm saying to you that they should listen to us because we believe that we're bringing a vision and
projects.
But I just told you what it was, and you said that you didn't want to hear that you wanted to hear about the timing. So then I addressed the issue of timing and the candidates, and now you're saying that you want me to talk about the vision again.
No.
So it seems as though what you have a point to prove. You don't really want to hear what I have to say.
That's not true.
That isn't true? Okay, so I believe that I answered the questions that you asked. You asked about timing, the candidates, and a vision, and I think I answered the three of them. And I think you should give us a chance, basically, because everybody should be given a chance. I would give you one.
All right, well, candidate, caller, thank you so much. I know personally how you feel about the situation, and at least you wanted to be upfront and honest and blunt as well, too. Thank you again for calling and always keep on contributing to the movement, yeah?
No problem.
All right, thanks again, man, because it's one caller at a time, unfortunately, and I just want to give fair chances to every and anybody out there. And once more, just for your benefit, you can add the following number to your WhatsApp contacts, +1 246 825 6536, and you can WhatsApp call and engage the political leader of the UPP. Know that we know there's no real distinction at this point, and we just need it to be clear. And sorry, Crystal, go ahead.
No, it's just going to make a point that the reality is that as you see the candidates come out for the UPP, you can make a decision as to whether you like them or not. If you think that they have enough qualifications and that their vision and their efforts that they propose that they're going to make are efforts that you're aligned with, then you can decide, yes, I'm going to vote for UPP, or no, I'm not going to vote for them. I don't like where they're going. I think I prefer someone else. So a year will come out, and if you think it was too little time to convince you, so be it.
And that's the whole purpose behind this thing. Remember, the vision behind this series is nothing more than to show you that you can engage and to get something good. I figure you have to engage by giving of something good. And Lynette's is issues driven and solutions driven, and again, we want to stick to that. But the vision is important for me, and I think that she's done a good job in terms of representing that vision over the last hour and whatnot. But this is not me criticizing the caller. I just want to remind others that if you've missed that somehow, this video will be uploaded as soon as we are done, and please revisit it, because in all fairness, she has communicated the said vision. But I wanted to know, because we have already spoken to policy outside of integrity legislation, and we know your position is clear there. And I was mentioning before we went to the call that there's certain things that we wanted, especially this week, to start discussing, and one is the BNTCL deal. And we just wanted to get an idea of how the UPP feels about it, if that's the position you want to make clear. And if, let's say, as time goes on and you are in a position to influence, how could you change, if it is possible, the direction in which this deal is going, and how it may or will affect the average person out there?
Well, there are 2 points. My main concern about the BNTCL deal from the very beginning was that the people of Barbados seemed to have known nothing about it.
Until it was almost pretty much wrapped up.
Yeah. In my view, that is a huge problem. It's a huge problem. You can, and this is, when you talk about transparency, sometimes people might not quite get what you're saying.
Yeah.
But the assets of the BNTCL belong to the people of Barbados.
Right. As it stands, yes.
Yeah. And sometimes I think Barbadians don't really quite get that, because Barbadians tend to make a distinction between what is government owned and what is owned by them. So you own your house and the government owns everything else in Barbados. That's not true. The people of Barbados own all the assets, which we call government assets. So BNTCL is owned by the people of Barbados.
75.5% share.
And over time, going back to all of the people who many of us do not like to reflect on, the people who probably dug down Rendezvous Hill with their bare hands using a some kind of acts or something like that. When I see these things, those are the people that I remember. And I think sometimes some of us with our cell phones and our computers and our iPads don't remember that those people laid the foundation. Now, those people invested, as far as I'm concerned, in BNTCL. And we have inherited what they have built up. And then a government decides that it is going to sell it, whether it had to or not. The government is going to decide that they're going to sell it without any reference whatsoever to the people of Barbados. I think that is wrong.
All right, so we got another call on the line, and we've got 10 minutes to go before we end. 1 second. Hi, good afternoon, or, well, yes, where you are is probably still afternoon, so good afternoon to you. Thanks for calling The Price of Everything, talking to our leaders. You are on the line with Lynette Eastmond, chairperson of the UPP. Go on with your question.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon.
I would like to ask, can you please kindly inform me your status within the BLP party?
I've resigned.
Sir, did you hear her?
Can you repeat that, please?
I resigned.
She's no longer a member of the BLP.
Oh, okay.
All right. Is that your question, sir? Hello?
One more question, please. Was she member when she announced her UPP?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that one more time?
When you announced
UPP.
UPP.
Okay.
Well, no, I wasn't a member.
All right, so she's saying she was not a member when she announced UPP. She had long resigned. Is that...
Well, thanks a lot.
Okay, you're welcome.
All right, thank you so much for calling, sir. Thank you so much. All right, so we had someone from Canada that we can tell from the accent is part of our diaspora, but is not, if you want to look at that. So that means the reach is going far and wide, and obviously it seems like the world has a spotlight on you.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing.
And just so people would understand, you know, that caller was from Canada, but definitely not part of our diaspora, but yet part of our diaspora enough to know what's going on here in Barbados. Thank you, sir, for calling once again. So I just want to make it very clear that this conversation has been going very funny so far. Some persons are saying that they wish that you had repeated this vision again. And I can see and that it wasn't clear and whatnot, but I guess you can.
It short.
Yeah, is there some snap?
I know.
I'm sorry. Yeah, our attention span seems to be very bad, but I mean for their benefit, because it seems to be a bugbear on this page.
Correct.
Well, let me say that it bothers me that Barbadians say that they're young people, that their attention span is very short.
Well,
when young people in other parts of the world are sitting down long hours and doing all kinds of fantastic work, coding stuff and doing software.
How your coffee?
Anyhow,
how your coffee?
That's not. But they're doing it. They're doing it. I hope our young people are not shortchanging themselves.
No, I hope not.
But the vision for Barbados, and sometimes it's difficult to see it because we are used to thinking one way. Think about what happens in any of the countries that are high on the Human Development Index. This would be, we'll take for example a country, let's take one that has a political system similar to Barbados, and that would be a country like New Zealand.
Okay.
And New Zealand made a definite decision that it was going to reform itself, that it was going to not just be a little country in the Pacific Ocean, but that it was going to become a first world nation. And in doing so, they engaged in a number of reforms from the level of politics and how their politics was run, right through to education, right through to the tax system. And in order for Barbados to really become a first world country, those are the things that Barbados has to do. It has to reform itself from top to bottom. So we're talking about a new Barbados. And in order to do that, you do have to get all Barbadians on board to recognize that that is the direction in which we're going. You really can't, you can't just look at one issue and not look at all of the other issues. Let me give you an example like health. If we're actually going to address health, I think that we need to change our vision. Our vision is about, in terms of government policy, seems to be more so about what do we do with people when they get sick, as opposed to
Prevention.
trying to keep every single Barbadian healthy from the time they are born, and it is only in exceptional circumstances that we will be going to a polyclinic or going to the QEH. Now, when you think about keeping Barbadians healthy, you cannot do that in a vacuum. You also have to think about agriculture as well. Because what is going to help keep us healthiest is if we get back to eating our fruits, our vegetables, and our ground provisions, and if there are actually people working doing that. So if you're going to do that, it isn't only an issue for the Ministry of Health, it is also an issue for the Ministry of Agriculture.
Okay. So we've got another caller on the line. Then there's a series of questions I need to ask as well coming out of that. Hey caller, you're on the line with Lynette Eastmond, chairperson of the UPP. Ask your question.
Hi Jeremy, Dwayne here again.
Yes.
This is more, I thought it would have come up, your perception out there that this is a party whereby Mr. Arthur is involved with. What sort of, did he have any involvement with the formation of this party?
No, and Mr. Arthur has said that on more than one occasion, that he has had nothing to do with its formation. And he hasn't, and I can say that quite honestly.
Okay, because that was just to clear because there is a lot of, as you know, there's a lot of rumors out there.
Well, for some reason, people still seem to be concerned with what Wayne Arthur is doing. I guess it's like how Barack Obama was just in New York, and you would have thought that he was still the prime minister. The president of the United States. So there's always a concern with what Wayne Arthur is doing. The only thing that I've heard Wayne Arthur say, which I don't think he would mind me repeating, is that he is willing to assist the country in any way that he can, just as he goes abroad and he assists other countries in the region and around the world.
Right.
So you had no involvement in the formation in this party?
No, he did not.
All right, so thank you so much, caller. Thank you so much, Ben. All right, bye-bye. So, there's general questions on here that I've seen regarding the position of the party with respect to tourism, the economy, health, as you mentioned, education and international business. One very young,
and scholarships.
Exactly, one young student was asking about the cost of education and also youth unemployment. If there's any positions that the party currently has on any of those areas. I've got them written here again if you want to address them one by one. Tourism, economy, education, IB.
Yeah, you see, it's that's why really you have to be able to talk about a strategy in a comprehensive fashion, because if you don't develop the productive sectors, you really aren't going to have the money to implement some of the things that we want to implement. And I think that this is one of the areas in which this government fell down very badly. You can't just keep on borrowing money, and you can't just keep on increasing taxes. You really have to focus on the productive sectors. And I think one of the mistakes that was made is that there's this continuous focus on tourism alone. And I say alone not because small sums of money are not spent in other areas, but the spend on tourism is so disproportionately high that we don't get an opportunity to develop the other sectors like agriculture and international business, and those areas which they would be part of a new Barbados economy, but really everybody else in the world is doing them already. For tourism, I think that Barbadians have to recognize that tourists have more options. So the tourist market is going to become even more competitive. Tourists have also learned that they should not lie in the sun all day. So they need to get up and do stuff. It is not good for their health. They need to get up and do stuff. So for Barbados, and this is something that we can do quite easily, Barbados needs more attractions. And when we travel, we seem not to recognize that the attractions that we visit are actually man-made. They're not naturally occurring. When you go to Disney, that's a whole thing that was built by human beings. When you go to London, the London Eye was built by them. It's a tourist attraction. The London Dungeons was built by them. All of these things are attractions that are actually built. The country just sit down and say, let us build some attractions. Barbados needs to do that. And we have a lot of buildings. We have old plantation yards and all kinds of things that we could do a number of things in. So the tourism product needs to be refreshed. The other thing too is that people are beginning to recognize that tourists want an authentic experience, many of them. So a lot of them are actually finding their own way to some of the shops in Barbados and going to have that authentic experience, which isn't usually provided. Sometimes people in the tourism industry seem to feel that they don't want to interact with Barbadians, and I really don't think that's the case. So we have to refresh the tourism product for sure. I think we have to provide more attractions. Where international business is concerned, I guess everybody knows, well, I don't know if everybody knows, but international business used to bring in about $300 million for Barbados. It is now down to about $96 million. All
right.
And so it's unfortunate that you did not raise that when the minister was here, because you've been asking yourself why you have to pay so many taxes. Well, it's because the amount of money that the international business sector used to bring in has now fallen dramatically. Within the international business sector, it is a sector. Well, it is a sector that I've worked in from the very beginning. When I worked with Price Waterhouse, that is where I was working, and then I went into to be the director of international business. So I've spent a significant portion of my time in this sector. And in this sector, you always have to be on the ball. It does not even make any sense me telling you that you need to put X piece of legislation in place now. A year from now, it might not actually be that. And in the past, the way that the sector was developed was that it was driven by those who will create new products. Those are the accountants and the lawyers in Barbados, along with their counterparts abroad. And new products means just new ways of doing business where people can minimize their tax. And those are areas that are complex, but they're areas in which you can do research and see what other people are doing. You might do some of what they're doing as well, and you can also develop your own new products. Now, the sector has suffered because some of the products that were in place before have changed, and Barbados has really not come up to speed in terms of addressing them. One of the things that I would like to see done in international business, and I've been saying this for years, the structure that you have for international business can be used for any type of international business, not only financial services. The legislation that was drafted years ago was never meant to be only for financial services. If you look at the legislation, you would see that it even addresses manufacturing. So the legislation was meant to be used for any type of business where you would have an investor come into Barbados, set up an operation. What I'm saying is that that same legislation, the same structure you have in terms of the international business unit, the fact that we have Invest Barbados looking for investment, we also have the BIDC, that same structure could be used to develop some of the businesses or some of the areas of the economy that are now underserved. And those areas would be those areas like software development, animation, the making of applications, the making of beats for music. You can also do things like with a growing film industry in Barbados, there are aspects of the film industry that can be outsourced from countries abroad into Barbados. We have people here that are excellent at editing. We have people here that are excellent at sound. And Barbados is a beautiful place for anybody to come and do ADR in Barbados. Now, Vancouver, for example, has made a killing over the years out of doing work, additional work on film coming out of Hollywood. And there are always arguments about it because Vancouver puts incentives in place to get them to come to Vancouver. and there are arguments going on, there are trade issues and all that, but at the same time, Vancouver is making money. So there are those areas that we haven't really looked at all. Even though we've educated people in these fields, we still have not allocated the money to develop those areas. And those areas can actually employ a lot of people. And more importantly, I think Barbadians can actually realize their full potential right here in Barbados, utilizing the internet to receive instructions from abroad and do it right here at their desk. The reason that I can say that is because I actually know people who are doing these things. They're doing them without any assistance from government. They're doing it on their own, and they're doing it on a small scale. So I'm saying that the seeds are there already for these new industries. We just need to allocate some money to them, and also sensitize or provide leadership in the government agencies like the International Business Division, BIDC, and Invest Barbados, to ensure that we go there and we attract that work to Barbados. I mean, I could go on talking about the buildings, the old BIDC buildings that you have at Newton and that you have at Wildy that are not being used. They're just falling apart. They need to be refurbished. All of those things we need to do, and they can be done.
Right, but thank you so much. I mean, there's because we've ran over time, but I wanted you to get those points across, those very substantive points across. There was one question I wanted to end on this before we do a wrap up. And also another one that was asked for the party's position with respect to alternative industries like hemp, the hemp industry and hemp byproducts. That's a key one, it seems. And then another one here, it seems to be hashing home who would be PM.
Correct. They're not letting you dodge that one.
This is what keeps popping up. Who would be PM if there's a UPP
if elections are called tomorrow?
Yeah, if it was called tomorrow.
No, you know what? No, you know what happens, and you probably don't realize this.
Yeah.
But after the election, and you know who your parliamentary colleagues are, because you don't know who your parliamentary colleagues are before the election. We have had a situation where our prime minister has lost a seat.
Right.
A sitting prime minister.
Right.
So all of it depends on who actually wins their seat. When the individuals who win their seat, they meet and they vote on who the prime minister should be. That is how it is done.
And this is done even if it's an incumbent prime minister that leads.
Yeah, you have to decide. You still have to go through that process.
Did not know that.
The argument that would be made in the room when they're sitting to decide is that the argument that would be made for the prime minister is that we went into the elections and people expected me to be prime minister. I was the leader in the election, so they expect me to be the prime minister, and the people would be very upset or discontented. So that's the argument that the incumbent prime minister would make. Right. But remember that when everybody goes to the polls, the prime minister still has to do certain things because the country still has to have a leader. But they don't go to the polls as Minister of Finance. They just go as a human being, and you decide to vote for them.
I hear what you're saying, but I think the reason why the persons commenting would be upset with the answer, we know who BLP's leader is. DLP, UPP, Solutions, PET, and
But I said that I'm the leader. So I don't know how many times you want me to say that in how many different languages.
It just seemed to take a very long time to even get to the point of admitting that the chairperson, which you came in as the chairperson, would be the political leader, and if you were voted in, if you did get enough votes, that you would be the new prime minister.
Well,
if that had to happen, basically.
I don't know if it's because I'm a lawyer, but I suppose
that might be it.
Suppose I were to sit here and tell you that okay, I would be the prime minister, then people would be saying, well, she ain't even wait to see who the guy is going for.
Yeah,
I don't think that's it. I don't think that's it. I just
but
think
young people are saying basically that they want straight answer. They don't want all the lawyer talk.
No, but the thing
is,
but
that's the truth.
I have to actually side with Lynette on this one because if it is that this thing is as complicated as it is, and I don't know, so I come in from a position of ignorance as most people might be. All right, so the thing is, if it's not clear who could be prime, because suppose she doesn't win a seat.
I understand that.
Right,
I'm
but then
just
the
trying
question
to
for me,
explain what is. I'm here looking at the comments, and I'm trying to explain the frustration that is here.
No, but it should not be frustration because sometimes there's a process and there's a way of doing things. And you do them that way, not because you want to be slow or you want to be complex, but because that is the right way to do them. And sometimes you can't get around right. A leader who goes into an election and does not win his seat, he can't still be the prime minister.
Right. So therein lies the issue.
The people sit in the room then and they decide who the prime minister would be.
So who else then? This comes back to this thing. I definitely will have to invite you and Craig back on for this one. But who else then can be seen in the public light as a capable leader of the party?
People want to see a leader.
Who can be seen as a capable person within the Barbados Labour Party if that leader isn't there?
But
the current leader isn't there.
But that's the problem. That's unfortunate, though. That's unfortunate.
Who can be seen as the leader?
That's very unfortunate.
If Frandelstra isn't there,
which is the issue that the DLP has.
And I will tell you that I went into an area and I said I was the chairperson leader of the party, and they said, so that means you would be the prime minister. So I said, well, would you like to see my qualifications in terms of being in leadership positions?
Right.
And the fellow there said, no, I want to see them. Well, we don't ask the rest what their qualifications are. But if I need to put my qualifications on the table, I can do that, because I think one of the most serious challenges that Barbados had back in 2005 had to do with the OECD Harmful Tax Competition Initiative. And I was director of international business at the time, and I represented Barbados's interests. Not only Barbados's interests, I ended up representing the interests of all small states around the world against the Organization for Economic Development, and I was successful. So in terms of providing a leadership role, I have done that. The $300 million that the OECD wanted to cut, because they were going to cut the entire thing, they weren't going to allow us to do any international business. I was the one who developed the strategy. I was the one who traveled to Paris, to London, to the United States, to the United Nations to fight that matter on behalf of Barbados, along with the excellent civil servants in Barbados at that time, because we had to fight that and we had to win. I'm not saying that I did it alone, but I was the lead person on it. In terms of the Ministry of Commerce, most people that I encounter say that I did a good job as Minister of Commerce. In terms of being Director of International Business, being the lead negotiator for services within the free trade area of the Americas for CARICOM, I did an excellent job at that as well. At least that is what my colleagues from around the hemisphere said. And they said that they were sorry when I actually left the negotiations. So in terms of actually having a leadership position where there was success, I have several successes that I can put on the table. Unfortunately, I would say when I was in the other place, it wasn't frequent that your colleagues would actually say that these are the things that you did and that you did a good job. So unfortunately, I have to say them myself. And I am sure that most of you are unaware of them because they were never presented to you. But a lot has to do with whether the young people of Barbados, as you say you are, the young people of Barbados, it depends on whether you want competence or whether you want somebody who will dance on the stage and look good. I probably won't look good doing that. I probably will not come across as maybe the most charismatic person that you've ever come across. But it seems to me that the charisma isn't working. Because when you actually get into government, it's actual work that you have to do. You actually have to sit at a desk. There's a desk, and there are files that come to you. It isn't about grandstanding in Parliament. You know, that's what you see. And you might see people making speeches, and you know that it's really actually sitting at a desk, having files come to you and working on the files. It has to do with the statement of the economic position of Barbados coming to you, and you addressing it. We've had situations where the economy was and the money was so tightly managed that if you were in a particular ministry, you would have to go to the Ministry of Finance to say, can I draw down X amount of money? And they would say, no, you can't draw that down as yet. So it was managed on a daily basis, and this is what you need competent people to do. But a lot of the emphasis seems still to be not on saying what has to be done and actually doing what has to be done, but being able to, just go on this platform and curse other people, and people say that you sound sweet and all that kind of thing. I notice in the European countries, and I admire those countries because I think that their countries are very well managed. In those countries, they've moved away from that because they know that they're not going to war. So you actually don't need somebody with long flowing hair or anything like that, to go into battle. You need somebody who can sit down competently. Somebody like Angela Merkel, who sits in Germany, is said by Forbes to be the third strongest leader in the world. And she is probably the most uncharismatic leader in the world as well, but she gets the job done. But I suppose that is the German psyche, because we always say that we know that German cars are reliable, but they're not as flashy as the Italian cars. So you see where the Italian economy is, and you see where the German economy is, and I guess it's for Barbadians to choose whether they want flashy like the Italians or if they want competent like the Germans.
Why can't we get both?
Well,
but
because life is not like that.
But you see, so all right, so we have to wrap up, unfortunately, because we went a little bit over time. But I really wanted you to get your point across. We had over 1,000 people right now viewing, so there's a captive audience there, and they did ask that you come back because they're so much about details. But if it is that you can't offer details just yet, so be it. But if not, there's an open forum for you to come back.
We can offer more details.
Perfect. So.
I would recommend, especially where the details are concerned, as you get them to put them online, because this is the driving point. People don't want to hear pretty talk. They want to see the plan of action. So even if you post that in your Facebook group or you post it on your personal page, however it is that you get across the points with regards to UE students, education, agriculture, all of these hot topics, it would really be appreciated if the details are shared.
We'll get to them. Don't worry, no. We'll have you back because unfortunately that might be a week after if you're fine with that.
Yeah. No, I just want to say.
Go ahead.
I just want to say that if you are saying to me that what the people want is detail, and they actually want to hear detailed issues being discussed, that is right up our alley.
Okay.
If you just want flash and flam, that is not what we're about, because that is not going to change Barbados. It isn't. All the pretty talk, as you have seen, has not changed Barbados. We should be much further ahead. As you know, we used to be 36 on the Human Development Index. We are now down at 97.
No worries. Well, thank you.
So it hasn't worked.
Well, thank you to Lynette. And just want some closing comments very quickly before I announce next week's lineup. So Lynette, if you've got any closing comments for the 1,000+ people out there right now, a quick snappy 30 seconds.
Well, I just want to thank the 1,000 people out there for listening to me, for giving the UPP an opportunity. I want to thank you for calling in. If you didn't call in, we would not have as interesting a program. I like the challenging questions, and I like the fact that you want more detail, and we have more details that we can share with you.
All right, great. And Crystal, your closing comments?
I'll make it very quick. Thank you for being here. Thank you everyone for calling in, and we really appreciate it, and look out for the next video.
Oh yeah, and for sure, because I'll tell you guys this, next Friday, for sure, we are having Dale Marshall. He's coming through to speak with us, and then on Saturday, we've got a double up. One that Crystal may not even want to be here for, but nonetheless, we have a double up.
Two of my... have something going on.
Yeah, she may have something conveniently going on. We've got David Eswick and Dennis Kelman coming to the studio on Saturday. Yeah.
There's no room for me in the studio with two of them there. I mean,
my gosh.
I'm going to have to sit on the floor.
I said this next to the two people. I should not have said it, but nonetheless, yes. The reality of the situation is that both are coming. So Friday again, that's 8 o'clock. to 9:30, and next Saturday 6 o'clock to 7:30. Thank you guys for joining, and I would see you soon. Bye-bye.
YouTube partner Reality Weekends presents
We're in there. We have an item in there. You tell us what you feel in there.
the all-new live Facebook game show where you can win cash and many different prizes weekly. All you gotta do is guess what's in the box.
First clue, local repairmen should have one.
Then call or text the answer to win awesome prizes.
No, it's not a charger.
Nah,
No.
sorry.
The more people to play, the more fun it gets.
Ooh, we got the call.
She just won herself $50 voucher.
So tell your friends to log on to
WayDidIt.com
and follow the Facebook page where we go live every week. So watch the show this week and guess
What in there? What in there?
Yep, good to go.
Do you need amazing aerial footage for your next video production or commercial? Do you need custom sky photos or videos for your real estate properties, music videos, events, or sporting activities? Then 246drones.com is the perfect solution for you. Buy instant downloadable, licensed aerial stock footage or book a custom aerial film package today. Visit us now at www.246drones.com. Services available in Miami and the Caribbean. Hey there! Do you have a business, product, or service that needs promoting? Well, the same way that you're seeing this commercial, thousands of others will too. This could be your business advertising right here. We can create your commercials as well as promote them heavily online. Book your commercial today by visiting www.southpointstudios.com or email us on realityweekends@gmail.com.
Welcome to the Express Bikini Store. Feel good in your swimwear from expressbikini.com. Log on to www.expressbikini.com. Follow us at facebook.com/expressbikini and on Instagram. Feel confident with expressbikini.com. Feel alive. Express